Boom, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Ponytails Podcast. I am Andres Gamboa, the host and a four-summer bookman. And if you want to know what the heck that means, what is a bookman or a bookwoman? Well, let me tell you. What we do at the show is we interview people who sold books door to door for a company called Southwestern Advantage, located in Nashville, Tennessee. They've been recruiting college kids since 1868 to go door to door for 80 hours a week, selling educational materials to families all over the United States, and they recruit college kids from all over the country and sometimes all over the world to do so. There's an estimated about 100,000 plus alumni of that program who are out in the wild, and we are finding them. These are our ponies, and we have them tell us their tales. And so we rounded all these people up. We are asking them questions about how that experience impacted them, because as you can imagine, wild stories come from going door to door for 80 hours a week on street commission during your summers. So if you guys like what you're listening to, I hope you guys are hitting that subscribe button, hitting that follow button, hitting that share button. That means a lot to us. If you want to support us that way, man, we would be eternally grateful for you to do so. Also, make sure you guys find us. We're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you guys are wondering where else you can, if you're like seeing us like on YouTube or something like that, we are on all of those platforms. And so hope you guys enjoy. I want to do a really quick review, read out loud. So this is our 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. That's where you can leave us a 5-star review. I want to read every one of these aloud during the following episode, so we can recognize the people who are giving us some love. So thank you guys so much for listening in and submitting this. This is from Book Girl 2018. Her title is Work Hard, Play Hard. She wrote, "It was a pleasure getting the opportunity to get to know Andres, as well as to have some intentional conversations. Something that's unique about this cast is that the Ponytails is upfront and center with good, bad, and the ugly. There's nothing but integrity and transparency." Cool beans. We are striving hard for that. Thank you so much, Book Girl 2018. Must have been a guest on the show. I wonder who that was. Anyway, speaking of guests, my guest today is Nicole Wingard. I am so excited to have this conversation, guys. I just did an episode on her podcast. Make sure you go check it out. That's actually what we're going to be talking about today. She was a former guest on our show. If you want to go find that episode, you can go catch it. It was like one of our earlier ones. So we're probably going to have some stories from then and maybe some new ones here on this one today. But she has a podcast out, and it's like I said, stick around for the details on that. She interviewed me on her show, and I was honored. And so I was like, hey, why don't we get you back on the podcast on Ponytails and have you tell us all about it? So she sold for 2 summers from 2019 to 2020. So the year of the pandy. Part of the Dynasty organization, went to Texas Tech University, originally from Flower Mound, Texas. You can find her on Instagram at Nicole J Wingard, and you'll see that on the screen when she pops up here, or you can click on the link below. All these content, this Instagram link will be down there in the description notes. Just scroll up from the page of this episode. Her favorite scroll is number 2. I'll greet this day with love in my heart. And if you want to go find her original episode, it was number 59. So like I said, way early. Well, early in the show, we are well into the 200s by now. So hopefully, 990,000 some odd to go. So when I come back, I'll be on with Nicole. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, you sound,
Andres.
your microphone's catching. It's like so crisp. I like it.
Nice. She's doing a good job. She really is. Does a lot for me.
Did you name your microphone? Should we name our microphones?
No, I haven't yet, but I did buy her off my sister, who I guess her and her friends were they might have ingested some wine and decided they were going to start a podcast, and I think they got it off Craigslist or something. Never happened. I texted one day. I said, "Hey, I'm starting a podcast. Can I buy this off of you?" She's like, "Yeah." So good story there.
No, but that's great. That's actually how this podcast was born. We were bored during the pandemic and maybe had some beers, and we're like, it'd be cool if we talked to book people about their life experience. And here we are. So you never know where that could go.
That's true.
Now, speaking of podcasts, let's just dive in. I am so excited, and I was so excited to find out that you were doing this project, and that you were starting a podcast. I'll let you tell the whole story of it, because I came into it, once it was already kind of happening. But tell us a little bit about, why did you start a podcast? Why now? What is it about? And maybe pepper in some of the context of, the larger picture here. So I'll let you take it away from here.
Yeah. Okay. So, for people who don't know, I'm involved in the Miss Texas organization, and I have been for 3 years. This will be my third year competing. And there is something called a community service initiative that every girl is required to have. So, essentially, it is any cause that you want, that you advocate for, and you work for in the community. And I worked with big brothers, big sisters, and did mentorship and advocated for improving mentorship in communities for the first 2 years. And it actually was my plan to continue that work this year. And then on a Tuesday morning in March, I was putting mascara on my eyelashes, getting ready for work. And all of a sudden, Andres, I don't know if you've ever had this before, but it was like a jarring image, like probably the closest I've ever felt to God speaking to me directly of, you need to do this. And it was me telling my story in front of college students. And long story short, I experienced sexual assault. I was raped my freshman year of college and stayed silent about it for years. And actually, just last year, really realized it wasn't something that I could ignore. It was something I needed to address and find healing from, because as it turns out, you actually can't shove things in a deep, dark corner and expect them to never rear their ugly head. They do.
Wow.
Um, so I really felt God put that on my heart. Like, okay, Nicole, you need to share this, and you need to use your title as Miss Texas as a platform. And my immediate reaction was absolutely not, because one of the big things about me is I'm not a vulnerable gal. I don't really do feelings. I am not really a touchy-feely person. And it was even hard for me to just admit that this situation that I lived through still made me emotional. Um,
Hmm.
so anyways, I did decide to take that step and create and build an initiative around my story, but I knew that I didn't want it to be about me. Yes, I went through that experience and it was terrible and it was horrible, and um I'm finding healing, and I have 3 tools that I teach people. But also everyone in their life goes through really difficult things. We're all not alone. That's just what life is about, is bad things happen to you and how are you going to overcome them. So I wanted it to be this message of, no matter what has happened to you, you don't have to let yourself be defined by it. And for so many years I lived in shame and almost kind of self-loathing, that I didn't see value in myself because of what happened. Um, and so I wanted to highlight other people's stories that just went through crazy, super hard life events and how they got through them. So that's what the podcast is about. The first episode is my story. And then subsequent episodes, I've done 4 so far. Andres was number 3, I think. Um, Telling his amazing story of coming from Bogota, Colombia, living in extreme poverty, experiencing racism, and just creating a space of vulnerability. Because I think that's a huge way that humans connect is, oh, that happened to you? Oh my gosh, I'm not alone. So that's like a little synopsis of
Yeah.
of how it was born and why it exists.
And I mean, okay. So first of all, obviously, the first thing that we need to address is I'm sorry that that happened to you, and it it's actually kind of shocking how common it's not. It's just you hear this all of the time from people who are in the same boat as you are, where it was they felt so afraid to even face it themselves, and that's such a difficult place to be. So I'm sorry that that's something that you had to go through, because I can't imagine what that's like. And yeah, like you said, we've all had our hard things, but still, it's like that's harrowing to hear. It's just that's insane, and I'm sorry that that happened to you.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. Um, I'm glad. I'm glad that you're doing this, that you're deciding to face it, and that you're deciding to. take this as an opportunity to help others and move forward, because I think that's the hardest step is like, I mean, there's accepting it, which is hard, there's facing it, which is hard, but then it's being vulnerable to, like you said, to open up about it, to hope to help others. That's so hard, to open up and be public with something like that, and know that that's going to be out there, and that you can't
Yeah.
keep that genie in the bottle wherever it goes. And so that's, I commend you for that, because that takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of courage, to make it in public, and open it up to people. So
Well, thank
hats off,
you.
hats off to you. Hats off to you
Thanks.
on that. What Do you mind if I ask you some questions about, like, the
Sure.
podcast?
Absolutely.
So that Tuesday in March, you're sitting there, you say, hell no, right? You're, no way I'm going to do that. What made you, like, do you remember the point, or was it kind of gradual, where you went from hell no to this, like, champion cause of leadership and vulnerability? Like, was there a point that happened, and where just someone said something to you, or you realized something, maybe you prayed about it, or was it more gradual, that it kind of, like, one step at a time got you to this point? What was that experience for you to get to here?
Yeah. It wasn't gradual. It was, I think I thought about it for a day. And the next day, I
Whoa.
was like, okay, I'm in. And here's why. So I, as many of us, care so much about my image. I care a lot about what people think about me. I have curated my Instagram feed to where, oh, Nicole is doing this cool thing, and Nicole looks so nice in this photo, and my life looks, I have so many people, it tells me all the time, oh, you're always, you're always going and to traveling to cool places and doing cool stuff. And so that was honestly one of my biggest fears, was what will people think of me. And as I was thinking that day, and I went to work, and I just was, my mind was spinning, like, okay, what will this look like if I do this, and if I take this step, and I choose to make this public about myself. And I also think too, a limitation that was holding me back was not that pageant girls are perfect by any means, but a lot of times they'll be an advocate for a cause, but that cause didn't necessarily happen to them, or maybe it's drug awareness or helping, but they didn't actually experience, have any
Mhm.
type of drug addiction themselves. So I was worried too. I was like, what if they see me differently, that they see me as this dirty, stained person, that this actually happened to me, and that's why I'm want to speak out about it. And it all just came back to me, is what I realized. And I just realized that was so selfish. And as a 19-year-old girl, I was homeschooled. So I came from this tiny little environment at this, huge university. This happens to me. I have no clue what to do. I can't tell my mom. I can't tell my family. I didn't have friends to talk about it. I called my best friend Keegan, who lived hundreds of miles away from me at A&M at her first year of college too. And if I just wonder what my experience for the next 3 years would have looked like if a girl like me, someone my age in a sorority, came and spoke to my sorority and shared their story. Because it's not something people talk about. People
No.
like, no, I mean, stigma around rape culture is so real.
It
It's so
is, and
real.
it's so perverse and backwards. That's what I was trying to get at earlier, where it's like, just to even admit it to yourself, and just, like, not even tell anybody, but just, like, to have that be something that you didn't choose for yourself. Someone else decided to take power from you, because they thought that you were a weak person. Incorrectly, they thought that you had no value, incorrectly, and they took all of that from you. You didn't, it wasn't something that you had a say in, right? And so that that's so people don't realize that, and so they somehow start blaming you for this. There's people out there that will say that you shouldn't have been in that situation at that place or whatever, and it just misses the mark so badly that that stigma, like you're saying, is so out there, and I can't imagine what that's like. I can't I can't imagine what that's like. So you told
Yeah.
Keegan first?
I did. Yeah. I called her and she walked me through what to do, and
Oh man.
that was that. And I went and sold books, actually, is what I did. I didn't know what else to do. I knew I couldn't go home. And so that was a 90% of the reason why I went and sold books
That
was
was it. That was the yeah, because that would have been your first summer.
mhm.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. It happened in May, the last week of school. And then we went out 2 weeks later.
So you wow, that's so
Mhm.
intense.
Yeah.
Oh my
It
god.
was.
And how long before you told anybody else? Like, how did you feel? I mean, because you just the summer just kind of is a great way if you need to go and forget about something like this. It's a great way to go do that because there's a bunch of people who inspire you to only focus on one thing for 12 weeks, and that's go to the next door and then sleep
Mhm.
and then go to the next door. So, like, how were you able to process it, or were you able to? I mean, that's so May, and then you leave that weekend. That's so sudden. Oh, how did you?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing is though, I really didn't process it. I didn't talk to anyone, um, a, a close confidant, or let alone a therapist. Um, and over the years, I realized that the effects had manifested itself in ways that I didn't even realize until now. That, for years, I have just really struggled with self confidence and don't see myself as this funny, kind, beautiful woman that people will comment and be like, wow, you're so great, Nicole. Like, it just seems like you don't see that in who you are. And I didn't realize how much it was connected to, this. I really think when rape happens, it makes you view yourself as less. And there's almost a self-loathing that goes into it because I put myself in really bad situations with guys. I dated guys that were just not nice to me because I didn't think I was worth more than that to stand up for myself. Developed a really weird relationship with food because then I was just like, oh, well, my only value is my appearance. So if I'm not pretty, then people won't like me. So, I mean, it is crazy how, and this is not isolated. I think with so many things where if you go through a traumatic event and you don't deal with it, it will come about in other ways and it will affect your life in other ways. And yeah, so I will look back over the rest of college or, look at my actions with drinking or people I chose to hang around. I'm like, well, wow, that actually makes so much sense why I did that because I was really insecure. And it's sad that I didn't realize that until years later, but I mean, it's still good at any point to be able to realize, okay, I actually have to deal with things that happen to me or else nothing ever is going to change.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That's so wild. So you're
Yeah.
sitting in March, and then what was it like to work up the courage to tell because you're saying it now, right? And you're saying it to in a podcast, which is very like a large step of courage to like open up. You're saying it in your podcast, you're telling us your story here. But the first time I feel like my is the hardest part. Like besides Keegan, who like in March, who did you decide to like open up to about this, and how did you decide like to start telling the story?
Oh, well, okay. Just a slight correction there for better context. So I told Keegan back in 2019 when it
Right.
happened. And then in the years that have followed, my close friends
Oh,
knew
you've
about
told
what
them.
happened.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. I told my mom last May. So my
Wow.
parents didn't know. Yes. But yeah, my best friends, they knew. But it was just never something that we talked about. I didn't talk about it. They didn't talk about it. And actually, in March, when I made the decision to create Rise Above, I called a few of the girls that I knew at that time, and some of them I hadn't talked to in years. And um, I just had a conversation with them, and we just talked about the fact that it happened, because I think we all, as a friend group, ignored. We tried to pretend it didn't happen. Them and myself. I can't put blame on them because, I pretended like I was fine and I didn't want to talk about it, and so we didn't. And yeah, so my close friends did know, and then obviously Keegan. But then in March, did you have a second question?
Yeah, no, just like
Yeah.
that to decide to open it up to the world. Like, how did you? And I
Right.
guess I'm asking from a perspective of maybe there's someone out there listening who, I mean, statistically, there's probably someone out there listening who has also been through this horrific experience who hasn't quite gotten to the conclusions or decided to face it like you have, and no pressure for them to do so. But if they were wanting to like hear from someone like you said, I'm a 30-year-old man. I have no idea what that experience is like. So I wanted to hear from you. Like, how would you, I guess, how would you give advice to someone who may be finding themselves in this situation? Or what would you say to 2019 Nicole that may, looking back now?
Yeah. I love that you asked this question, because I created a presentation. So as Miss Texas and then as Miss Frisco too, I go and talk to universities, organizations, schools, and I have a whole separate program for kids under the age of 16 where I don't share my story, because that's
A little early.
just censor it a little bit. Yeah, but above
Yeah.
the age of 16, I do. Um, and I have an acronym, TLC, so it's easy to remember, but it's talk to someone, learn to affirm, and connect with community. And what I was missing was the talk to someone aspect, because I think there's definitely people out there like me with personalities where I'm a fixer. I fix things. It's what I do. I damage control, problem solving. I love it. And I'm always in the mode of operation of, okay, I got to fix myself. Like, I have a bad habit. Okay, how can we fix that? Or I don't like that I do this. How can I fix it? And that was a big part of it for so many years. I was like, well, I'm a big girl. I can handle my problems myself. And I just don't think that that's true. And it's not necessarily that you need a therapist. I also low key kind of hate that word. I feel like life coach is just way more awesome. Um, so, maybe it's a therapist, maybe it's a life coach, maybe it's a mentor, but somewhat a sounding board, or else you just kind of go a little crazy in your head, or you just try and pretend it didn't happen, which is what I did. And then learn to affirm. I teach my audiences self-affirmations, and how powerful they are, and then connect with community. It's crucial, having people in your life, in your corner, that support you. So those are my 3 tools
Mm.
that I personally used. And then I identified, I was like, oh, okay, these were the 3 things that over the past year, since I told my mom in May, have been the most helpful for me. So that's what I
Mm.
share with people.
And so how long after the 2019 like since that May did it take before you like do you have a life coach, or do you have a therapist, or do you have someone that you sought, and how did you decide that that was the person that was the right fit for you?
I do. I do. She's a mentor. She's been a mentor of mine for quite a long time. I just didn't choose to be vulnerable until
Ah,
I realized that that's a really good positive thing to do. So I think at
well,
some point I haven't gone the traditional therapist route, just full transparency, because
yeah.
it's still a little hard for me. Like, this random human being I don't know is in my life. I don't know why. And then the fact that it's called therapy, you know what? I think it's because my parents made me go to therapy when I was a kid, and I hated them so much for it. I was like, this sucks. And okay, this is actually so terrible. His name was Todd Sluter.
Oh no.
Slutter. I called him Todd the Slut.
Uh,
I'm like 15, just being a total brat. It was terrible.
sorry, Dr. Sluter. I'm sure you're a great therapist. Just bad
Dr.
timing.
Slut. It's true. If he's still practicing, yeah. Hope he's doing well. Hope he's doing
I'm sure
well.
he's doing well. I'm sure
Yeah.
he. I'm sure. I mean, it's just funny. My wife does. My wife is a licensed therapist or counselor, and it's funny because like I'm sure she would never say this, but in my head I'm like, there's no way as a therapist you like all your clients. Like I can't. Or maybe you do. Maybe that's the nice thing about being a therapist is you get to pick. But like maybe he's also like, oh, thank God that girl didn't talk about anything or whatever. Like maybe he's also he's listening to this and going, ah, you know what? I didn't like those hours either. Or, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I'm glad that you're mentioning that, talking to someone and getting and ensuring that you have like I like how you put it soundboard because just even when you say things out loud, which is why self-talk is so important as well, and it blends well with talking to someone and affirming yourself, is when you say things out loud, you your thoughts become external and so they seem a little bit more real, so it helps you analyze them more whether they're true or not. It doesn't matter. Like you might have a thought that's completely nonsense, right? I think the earth is flat or whatever, right? But when you say it out loud, you're like, oh yeah, that sounds really silly because it's real, it's outside of your head now. And so I like that you're saying that, just to have a soundboard. I love that you put it that way. It's just the way that that can be used to help gain power over yourself and gain empowerment in general is a good thing. Wow. So that was in March. How long before? And it was okay. So then, question: why the podcast? Tell me a little bit more about the podcast itself and how you're organizing it, how people can find it. Let's move into a little bit of that and the story of how it's being formed and kind of where you're up to now and where do you want it to go?
It can be found on Spotify. It's called the Rise Above series. It can be found on there probably next week if you're listening to this now, right now, because I am still in the process of cutting and editing and getting it on the internet. And why the podcast? I'm not gonna lie, I love talking. It's so fun. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, okay, Nicole, what are you good at? And I said, one, talking, and two, to people. Or
Great.
asking questions. Yeah, being a good listener. I have worked really hard. Listening is totally a skill. I've worked really hard on being an active listener. And I also love listening to people share their stories. I think it's really special.
Same.
So it also went along with the idea of, okay, I don't want this to be focused just around sexual assault. Yes, it's an important issue. And yes, I want to bring awareness to it and be an advocate for it. But the whole point of me doing this is so that I'm not selfish, so that I'm selfless in the point of sharing. And I didn't want to also turn it into kind of a sob story, woe is me, because that's not my energy. Like that's not my
Mhm.
message. It's this happened to me. Here's how I rose above it. And so I thought, what better way to communicate that message than to share other people who have gone through also incredibly difficult things and where they are now, how they rose above it, advice that they want to give. So, yeah, it was just a super cool idea that I think tied up everything with a bow and made a lot of sense for what I want to do. So that's
Amen.
why
That's so cool.
podcast. Yeah.
I agree. I also like talking. I also like asking people questions and being curious about their life and what they're up to and hearing stories. So I'm about it. I get it. I'm so happy that you did this. So where this comes is you called me, you had a couple questions about podcasting stuff. I think I think I just asked you about it because you posted on social media a while back and you're like, hey, I'm doing this, and then we connected about it. And immediately I'm a big believer in podcasts, obviously. So I was like, dude, come tell us about this. This is so cool. Now, when it comes to the podcast, you told me, or can you tell me a little bit more? I know we've talked about it privately on the phone, but so it's out there for context, is it started as, or it's part of like a project that you have to do with Miss Texas, or with the competition that you're on, that you're preparing for. So can we talk a little bit about that overarching part, and kind of what the vision is for here until your competition, and then maybe post competition?
In regards to the podcast or just in general
Ooh.
preparation?
Let's go with podcast first and then general prep, because then we can go into
Okay.
some of these questions that people submitted.
Oh, fantastic. So
So fun.
actually, I mean, Miss Texas is a vehicle that I use, and it's a platform that's so amazing and extremely conducive to sharing your story, because you don't have to create a voice for yourself. It's like, boom, you have a title and you command attention. Because you hold Miss Frisco, Miss Texas. However, I don't see this within the confines of Miss Texas. So I'm really excited about the podcast, just because I think it's such a great idea, and can just really highlight maybe what you can consider normal people, that they just live their lives, and they don't always get a ton of recognition for, hey, you went through this incredibly difficult thing, and that's amazing. So I'll have 5 episodes, my intro one, and then 4 with my guests before Miss Texas, because it's in 3 weeks anyway. So that was about all I could do. And then after Miss Texas, I mean, it's a free game. So I think what I've been doing is utilizing my network. So reaching out to people and explaining what I do, and hey, would you recommend anyone? And then finding them on Facebook, Instagram, and saying, hey, I'm Nicole. I have this podcast. I heard you have an amazing story. Do you want to come on? So the goal is to have it be an ongoing project that I do. And who knows, eventually a full-time gig. I mean, that's what you did with this. And it's definitely something I really, really enjoy doing. So that's the vision there.
Isn't it fun? You just kind of fall in love with the process. It's so, I mean, and we do a lot of stuff here on the show. We got our Bizzle project, and we have a bunch of other stuff that we have going on and all that jazz. But at the end of the day, this is my favorite aspect. Like if I could make it, for me, the goal is that I just sit down and get to do this part, and then I leave, and then the rest is still running. That's the goal.
Yeah.
But that's exciting. That's all I want to do. So I'm glad that you're like, it's just so much joy, and so I'm glad that you're getting into that. So then, okay, so let's change gears, because I'm excited. And by the way, we should figure out a way to partner up with the podcast stuff. We can figure out how to like cross platform. That'd be kind of fun.
Oh, that would be really cool.
Okay, so here we go. So now, okay, we're going to transition a little bit into what your life is like, but this is the first time we've tried this with our guests, and it was hilarious. So so we had Nicole go on to her platform. She has 2 Instagrams. One's more for your pageantry stuff, and the other one's more like your personal life, I think is that? Am I saying that? Am I explaining this right? Okay. And we had you go out and ask people to ask questions they wanted to hear about you from you. And so you sent these to me. I'm going to ask you these. Some of these I'm just going to read. You don't have to answer them because they're kind of silly. But this is hilarious. So now, before we get into this, I want to make sure I give out a quick shout out to some of our friends here at the show. So real quick, a quick message from our friends, guys. We're going to go to this segment. I don't know if we're going to make that a permanent segment, but this is hilarious and we want to do this. But this episode is brought to you by Southwestern Real Estate and Cardinal Senior Benefits. And here is a message from each of them. If you guys want to support us, please listen through this, because you never know who might want to or how this network can work, but it's all about who you know. So check out some of these opportunities, and if you want more details about them, they would be below. And then when we come back, we'll start with these questions. So 1 second, you're going to hear 2 ads. Here's one.
Awesome. Hey guys, Pedro Vega with Cardinal Senior Benefits. I'm talking about lifestyle and what this industry allowed me to do. You know, I got used to making 6 figures, but it was how much time did it take to do that? And that's basically the same thing with anything you do. It's not just how much money, but how much mental and emotional energy and time does it cost for you to make that money. This business allowed me to make more money than I had ever made with more time than I'd ever had with my family, my wife, my kids. I mean, it really was life-changing, and I'm thankful I've been able to share that with others. So, guys, hope you guys enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you so much.
That's right, Pat Roach, same guy that popped all the balloons right before he left sales school. It's me coming back. Just wanted to promote a couple things about a career in real estate with Southwestern Real Estate. It turns out, you guys, that when people buy or sell homes, it is a highly emotional experience for them. And what they need in that process is a salesperson who can identify with their emotions and help them work through that. Turns out book people are really, really good at that skill. And that's why what we help people do is buy and sell property 99% drama free.
Boom. Okay. Thank you for that. If you guys want more information on that, make sure you go check out the links below, and you can get more details on how to get in touch with both Pedro and or Pat for any opportunities for employment. They are great companies to work for. All right. Are you ready for these questions, Nicole?
I'm ready. I'm excited.
Okay. I'll start with one of the basic ones. And this one's from, okay. Why? It doesn't say who it's from, so I won't say, but this is, why should you be Miss Texas?
I love
why
this.
do we care? Why should you do it?
This is hilarious because the amount of time and money and energy I spend with pageant coaches and doing interview prep, and that's like one of the big ones.
Why
But
you?
why me? I think it comes down to growth. The organization is moving towards growth. It's becoming a for-profit. Miss America is, and making pageants relevant again in our society. And so the organization's going under a ton of growth, and very similarly, I am also experiencing a lot of growth. And I've actually been involved with Miss Texas since I was 15. I competed as a teen for 2 years and took a long break and came back. And this is the first year where I feel like I am authentically bringing myself to the competition and can say in a very genuine way, I want to win the title so that I can impact lives. And that's the goal. That's the focus. I mean, that's who Miss Texas is. That's who Miss America is. She's an inspiration. And I don't think people really relate to perfect. And I think that's what I thought I had to be for so long. But the reality is that Miss Texas, yeah, she has a crown and sash, but she's a person. And the more that you can connect with people and be vulnerable and create a space for people to find healing in their own stories, I think the more power there is to that. So that was more long-winded. My other answer I work on has to like be in a 30-second confine. So
Yeah, I've seen how
but that was
crazy
my
these things get. I've never watched a pageant in full, but there was a couple of, John Oliver, I think a long time ago, had a bit on like pageantry and how like intense it is to compete. And it's like, whew. And they ask you some stuff like, how would you solve the problems in the Middle East? And you're like, okay,
whoa.
here we go. No
Yeah.
president has been able to answer this in 30 seconds in the last 50 years. Let me give it a shot. Wow. Okay. Let's jump around. How do you do your hair?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so for all my girls out there,
We've never
the
asked
key-
this. We've never asked this on the show. This is awesome. This is so funny, dude.
I'm really living for it.
I mean, of all the people that we would ask this, it's probably the person that's competing in pageants. So how do you do your hair?
So true.
I need to know.
Right. Andres needs personal help, please.
SOS.
The key is dirty hair. It's 100% the key. My hair looks best when it hasn't been washed for 3 days, and then you just pump it full of dry shampoo, and you take a comb or a brush, and you take your hair here if you're watching, and then you teasing. Girls know how to tease. Yeah, and brush down, and it'll just poof it up a little bit, and then you just keep fluffing it and add a lot of hairspray. and boom.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm writing this down.
Yeah. Please take notes. Detailed ones.
I need the notes. Have you ever tripped on stage?
Oh, yes, I did. It was at the Lubbock Brownfield pageant, and I'm not even kidding you. I did a thumbs up sign on stage. I'm walking, and you can just imagine, just so cheesy and smiling, and then I just trip, and then I go, yeah, thumbs up,
Is there a
and
video of
I
this
still ended
somewhere?
up
Please tell me there's a
winning.
video of it.
I don't know. I should see if there
What is
is,
it?
because
What
that
year
would be
was this?
hilarious.
I'm just gonna do. If it doesn't come up in a quick Google search, I'll leave it alone. But this would have been. You said Brownville.
Lubbock Brownfield
Lubbock
pageant 2019.
pageant 2019. Nicole trips. Let's see. I'm just gonna Google this. See what. Oh, nothing right off the bat.
A
But
local, and it was tiny, so I would be shocked if there was any type of recording.
okay, you know what? This might take some more digging, but these are like recorded somewhere, right?
I honestly don't know. I should reach out to my old director. See
Yeah,
if
you should
she
reach out
has
and
them.
see if you can find it. Oh, dude, we'll throw it on the
I'll
Instagram
send it to
and
you.
just. Okay. Thank you for that answer. I appreciate the transparency.
Mhm.
What is your most embarrassing moment?
Oh man. Okay. So something that people should know about pageant land is it's a little bit like a cult, but in the best way. Not a bad cult, a good one. It's like selling books. No, actually, literally, yeah. If you sold books and you're listening, it's like selling books. There are things that, or there's just, you have to be in the know for certain things. And if you're not in the know, you're kind of screwed. So, pageant week, there's just a super intense schedule, and you have to be in this outfit, wearing this, doing this at this certain time. And I remember I was a teen, so this was years ago, and somehow I wasn't on the right Facebook group. So I thought we were practicing fitness. So I show up, I'm wearing leggings, t-shirt, whatever. Every girl is in a beaded gold cocktail outfit because I guess they had switched events. So my mom and I have to run to Dillard's. We had to buy everything: a bra, shoes, jewelry, a little bit of makeup, because I looked like I was about to go run a 5K. And it was just,
It's like when they
it was
show up
embarrassing.
with the broken down sled on the bobsled team. What was that? The Cool Runnings, and the Jamaican team shows up and they. Oh, you've never seen this movie?
Oh, I've
Okay.
never seen that movie. No.
The only I relate. It's kind of like the underdog shows up with like the broken down whatever equipment,
Oh,
and
sure.
and
Okay.
it's like a bunch of rich people who are there. You know, like when I was a kid, you would use like cardboard for our shin guards, and you show up and there's like two parents who filled up their vans of these little brown Hispanic kids, took them to like 2 hours to go play the soccer game. We were using like just nothing to warm up with,
Oh
no
my gosh.
cones, none of this, no jerseys, just a t-shirt with like a marker that had the number. And you look across the other side of the field and all these kids have like Adidas gear and the parents have a freaking mist tents happening, and it's like you know what I'm saying? It's like a tent. It's like 95 degrees outside and it's pouring mist, and they have orange slices and Kool-Aid, and you just
Mm.
look over and you're like, this is embarrassing.
You just
except
painted that picture very beautifully. That's
except
exactly what it was like.
except the pageant, except you show up in workout gear to the ball. Wow, that's fair enough. All right. Next question, moving on. Well, what is your skincare routine? What is your skin? Your skin looks
Ah,
flawless.
that's so nice. And I might get some hate comments for this because, up until maybe last year, I did nothing.
Same.
Absolutely nothing. I didn't even wash my face. So don't tell my mother that. Really no hygiene. No sense of hygiene.
No,
Yeah.
you didn't
My
wash your hair or skin for 3 days.
Nicole didn't bathe. She actually just
That's that's how you compete in pageants. You just don't take care of your hygiene, and it
Yikes.
works out.
Well, okay, so now I have a cleanser. So I do cleanser and then I just do super basic. I think it's CeraVe or something, but a little moisturizer at night, little moisturizer in the morning. And,
Mm,
maybe controversial opinion, but I truly think that what you eat just really impacts your skin and your face. And I love eating clean. I mean, for pageant and getting ready for that, but also just in general because it makes me feel super great.
mm.
And I think
I
that has
agree.
a lot to do with it, quite honestly.
I agree with that. I had been eating pretty clean for the last like month, and then this last week I kind of was not so good. But I went and had like Little Caesars pizza because it was quick and I don't feel like cooking. So I'm like, screw it. I'm just gonna get pizza real quick. And I went and got
Mhm.
pizza, and I'm like, this tastes terrible. Like it doesn't taste like anything. It tasted like might as well just been eating the cardboard box in order to taste just as good. It's just like
Isn't that
bland.
crazy?
Yeah. And so then
Yeah.
today I had like these chicken strips and I made like I put them in the air fryer, put a little bit of ranch on them and then some seasoning and just like really threw in a
Mm.
salad and put some lime juice on it. Oh my gosh, was that delicious. It's when
Mhm.
when it's clean, you can just taste it better. Oh my gosh. I'm into that. So skincare routine, eat right. I like it.
Mhm.
Um, when did you start dancing and how did you pick your talent? Or
I
start
started
Irish
dancing.
dancing?
Yes.
This is what this
Started
question
Irish
is.
dancing when I was 10. My mom grew up going to an all girls Catholic high school. And I guess she had the little nuns. They all Irish danced and taught the girls Irish dancing. So you can kind of picture Irish dancing is definitely bigger up north. So she grew up in Milwaukee in Wisconsin. And
Huh.
being homeschooled, my mom took it upon herself to literally enroll myself and my four sisters in everything that she could think of. Because I really think that's the only way you can homeschool well is by exposing your kids to a million different things because they have to get social interaction somehow. So that
Mm.
combined with the swimming, the cross country, the Irish dancing, the ballet, speech and debate, 4-H, all the different things. So she was like, yeah, might as well put him in Irish dancing because I did that when I was a kid. And it was so adorable. At one point, all six of us danced, my mom, and then my five sisters, or my four sisters and I. And in Irish dancing, there's something called Kayleys, and those are figure dances. So you have a 2-hand, a 4-hand, a 6-hand, and an 8-hand. And so we had our own Wingard girls 6-hand Kaylee dance.
Look
And
at
it was adorable.
you. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cute.
That's like me having 5 boys and starting a 6v6 men's league or something. That's a proud moment.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like
And then one by
you
one,
built
they
a
fell
team.
off.
One by one, they did not make it. They were no longer
Yeah.
with us. Wow. That's awesome. Irish dancing. And this is the talent that you do at the pageant. This is the right. That's
Yes.
awesome. That's so
Yes.
cool. And I want you to you went over this last time we were on the show, but I wanted you to kind of recap like all of the things that you have to do to prep here in a second after this
Okay.
last question. Um last question. Who was the cute guy cooking you dinner? This is
Oh, that's
Buffy
hilarious.
Bogue one asked this question. And then there's an emoji also. But
Oh,
she,
I
she
love
wants
Buffy.
the people want to know who was the cute
Oh, they
guy
demand
cooking
to
you dinner.
know. His name is Zane, and we are dating, so that is very fun. We're dating. And he did
Ooh.
in fact sell books, and actually he coached me. That's I didn't really know him in the book world. I just knew that he trained people. So he trained me for 2 years because pandemic year. So for Miss Brownfield. Um, and then I used someone else actually last year. I used another bookman, Tyler Hennis. I don't know if you know him.
Mm, yep.
Yeah, I worked with him for fitness stuff last year. And then last fall, um, just kind of got back in touch and I figured he wanted me as a client again. And turns out he asked me on a date. And I remember I texted one of my girlfriends who also sold books, Nadia. And I was like, do you think is this a date or She was like, yeah, Nicole, that's a date. So I couldn't go. As it turns out, I was talking to someone at the time, but poor guy. But then I made up an excuse to talk to him a few months later and just
What was the
wiggled my way back
excuse?
in there.
Were you like, hey,
Oh,
I'm
that I
gonna.
wanted training again.
Oh, the old bait and
Yeah,
switch.
right,
He has
right.
to talk to me if it's a sales call.
Yeah, I was like, duh, yeah, yeah.
Oh man, Zane's been on the podcast before with when Nick Tverdi was hosting as well. So I need to
Oh,
get
for real?
Zane on here. Yeah. I need to get Zane on here,
Oh,
just him and I, so I can have a
no,
conversation
you
with him.
should. He's a great guy to talk to.
Yeah, Zane's funny. I've met him a couple times because he was part of the Force organization, so he worked with my brother for a little bit. But oh, look at that! Like yet another couple introduced by books. How weird.
You love to see it. And selling books is a cult as well. But a good one.
Yeah, if we I always say we put the cult in culture.
Right, absolutely.
That's it, right? Okay. I did want to ask you this and have and so people can understand what's happening here. And you're approaching at 3 weeks, and one of the last questions says, "Are you excited for the pageant, and what preparation are you doing for it?" So, can you walk us through what it's like, the lifestyle that you are living currently to get prepped for this thing? What is the big deal about it? Why do people do this? And what are your dreams? We'll get to
Mhm.
that, but like, what's the main North Star if you could make it to like your goal? What's the big goal there? So take it away from here.
So my current lifestyle it's definitely pretty hectic. I wake up, I work a full-time job, so I have found it's definitely a good bit harder to prep for a pageant and also have a career. But I work out before I go to work. So I come home, go to work, and then after work, I have dance. So I normally dance for around hour to an hour and a half. And then I'll go to either the studio and do walking, modeling lessons, just practice walking in heels, practice holding something and pretending it's a microphone with on-stage question, or I'll just work on my social impact initiative stuff. So creating my podcast, conducting interviews, just scheduling my time out that way. And then there's a lot of other side things of wardrobe, making sure you have everything you need with that. My talent dress came in. We had it made in Dublin from Elite Dance Dress Designs, which is like a big designer in the Irish dance community.
Hmm.
And I guess we didn't specify that my routine uses my arms, and traditional Irish dancing is no arm use. So I got it on Monday, and I can't move in the dress. So we were like, crap. And so then
Hmm.
this week, there's some damage control there, figure out a tailor to go to, get it tailored. How are we going to fix this? So, yeah, it's definitely pretty hectic. It's not like that the entire year. I think probably a month or 2 months before is when you really start buckling down. A lot of mock interviews, a lot of roundtables where you just discuss current events and your response to
Whoa.
them.
Because you have to
Um,
be, that's the part that's like so, I think is so hard. I mean, like just being able to not only have to worry about how you're going to look and what you're going to prep like physically, mentally, you have your own job, but then also on top of that, hey, you got to read the news and know what's happening. And it could be
yeah.
something as recent as last week. So like,
Mhm.
can I ask you a little bit about that's part of it? Because I feel like I can relate to like prepping like a dress or prepping something kind of like when I got married. I remember my wife trying to like do the I can like see and prepare that, but how do you prep for like current event stuff? Do you just like read the newspaper and like try to figure out how to like what they might ask you, or like what like prep goes into that?
Two different things I personally do. One, read the news and listen to podcasts. Two, I have actually gone back. There's a website called pageantslive.com. And I've gone back to 2017, Texas specifically, but you have every single state available to you on there. And I will watch the finals night or the prelim shows, and I have an ongoing Google Docs list of questions that I'll just put on
What?
there. And then I cut them up and put them into a little bag and then just reach my hand in, ask the question. and then practice giving a 30-second answer off the cuff. So
What?
that's
What?
that's been helpful.
What's the most difficult one you've pulled out of like recent that you can recall, like the last few times where you're like, whoa, how do I answer this?
Oh my gosh. Oh, it was so weird. What was it? Texas is listed as one of the top 10 states with extreme wildfire threats. How can you ensure that Texans are properly prepared for fire safety?
My God, that's what I'm talking about. They ask you this like you're supposed to
Yeah.
solve this like you're the governor.
I was like, fire safety? I don't know. Stop, drop, and roll. I don't know.
Maybe stop dropping cigarette butts. Stop, drop, and roll. Stop, drop cigarette butts. Or don't do dumb stuff in the woods and light it on fire. You.
Yeah,
That's
there is
wild.
definitely some tough ones. Oh, there was one asked about the opioid crisis. That was a tough one. Big pharma. Oh, I think it was like, is big pharma contributing to the opioid crisis? So I mean, some of these are just very deep. Yeah. And you just kind of have to.
If you answer that, somebody's going to, those are the kind of questions that no matter how you answer it, somebody's going to think you're wrong, right? Like it could be a question about like gun laws or abortion laws and I'm not asking you this myself, but I'm just saying like, if I was in general, like if I was to ask you, hey, what do you feel about gun laws? Like regardless of your answer, there's going to be a whole different part of the country that's going to be like, no. And so it's like, is that a judge? Like, that's so hard. They're asking you questions that like Biden can't even be asked. Like Biden will go next question if he gets asked about, like what the heck? Or Trump or whatever president you pick from the last 10 years. That's wild. So wow. So you have to just prep constantly and just be ready for any of that. What happens if you get a question that you don't know? Like, dang, I didn't practice this one. What do? Do you just wing it?
Thankfully, that hasn't happened to me.
Oh God.
I've seen it happen, and it's my heart goes out to. I've seen it happen, and that's really hard to watch. Because I totally get it. I mean, you're on stage and you're on TV, and there's hundreds of people, and you just freeze if it's just a really, really difficult question, kind of out of the blue.
And you have 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, hey, listen, we're going to ask you this question. Think about it. Go in the think tank. Think about it for 5 minutes. Write down some thoughts. Come back. You have 12 minutes to go through. No, it's like on the spot. How do you how do you solve the debt in the country? Go. Okay.
My top 12 question last year was, if you could sit down for an hour with lawmakers, how would you address food insecurity? And I definitely said words, but I've gone back and rewatched it, and it was not cohesive. It was not a cohesive answer.
That's hard.
Well, I mean, I got things out, but it definitely. I remember feeling very panicked. I was like, food insecurity. I'm thinking in my head, and I thought she was going to take a way different direction with the question, and then she throws out food, and I was like, okay.
Dude,
so I mean, I've had panicked moments, but
that's crazy. And it's crazy because like I was telling you, that John Oliver bit when he brings up the infamous girl who was asked about Iraq or something, and what's his name, Mario, what pretty boy was like, you know what I'm talking about? You have to have seen
Mario
that.
Lopez.
Yeah. Mario Lopez is holding the microphone, and like he goes, everybody made that went viral because it was so incoherent, like what she was saying. But I'm like, if you listen to any president answer a question of the last two, they sound just like that, and nobody's making on a daily basis. This is crazy. And then they show a clip of this other woman who like answers I think they did ask her, it was Miss America or something, and they asked her about the Middle East and how to fix or something like a really tough question. And she had 30 seconds. There's no pause. It's not like think about it for a minute. It's like go. And she nails it. I mean, it was like some of the most diplomatic political discourse that's been said in 30 seconds in the last 20 years. I was like, this is insane. It's amazing how you have to, on top of everything else, be prepped that way. That's good for you. That requires some skill. That's impressive.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And hey,
Wow.
you can you and your wife can watch it live Saturday night at 8 p.m.
Th-
July 1st. And then you can see it for yourself. All the
I'm
girls
gonna
answering the
watch.
questions.
Okay, dude. Okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And Miss Texas is gonna be on. What channel?
It is on, I think it's just on pageantslive.com. It is on live TV. Actually, shameless plug. It's on, if you live in Texas, it's on 19 networks across the state have picked it up. So on every major news network. But outside of Texas, yeah, it's on pageantslive.com. And
Oh,
you
we'll get it on.
can, you,
Yeah.
you buy the live streams like $30 or something.
Oh, we'll do it. We'll do it. Dude, we should have a Ponytails watch party where we just like
Yes.
just
That would be
support you.
incredible.
Heck yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so wild. So sorry. So I interjected there because when you mentioned about the questions and you were talking about all the preps, you're talking about because you're dressed, all this stuff. You got to prep a routine for your dance. You were saying you got to prep, and then of course physically, you probably there's like the whatever swimsuit competition as well. So not only do you have to stay in incredible shape, eat discipline and eat correctly, maintain like really high standards of health and beauty that are probably rising every year, be completely current on current events, uh create a project or a service project of your choice, which is what you're doing with the podcast. On top of that, hold a full-time job. Am I missing anything else?
Well, I also work for a nonprofit too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Maintain
Yeah.
a relationship.
Maintain a relationship. Yeah.
Yep. Wow.
Yeah. I'm just kidding.
Wow.
I do very minimal work for them. That was just mostly as a joke. But it is, and that's why I love pageants, is because they are the epitome of creating the best version of yourself, because it is every facet of your life
Yeah.
that has to be excellent. And I love that. I love that. It pushes you. I mean, it's so hard. It's difficult.
Wow. People might be learning some new stuff here. I mean, I knew about some of this from our last conversation and just from like I said, from different places of learning, but it's so amazing how people do you feel like there's a stigma with this too? Like where people go, oh, pageants, and there's this like negative uh connotation that goes along with it for some people. Because I feel like sometimes do you ever find that when you bring it up that that's what you do and people kind of like judge you like without knowing like not only anything about you and kind of the struggle that you're going through, the good that you're doing in the world and the community, and how hard you're working for it. Like, how do you handle like that ignorance of people who are like, "Oh, you're one of those girls"? Because I know that has to happen. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. Especially in the workplace too. So now I've graduated college and um, I'm a working woman. And there has been a few interactions where I, I'm trying to recall this one instance. So I actually one of my coworkers is a girl that I compete with. And so she and I are both involved in the Miss Texas organization. And someone just made a comment that we did pageants, and I could just feel the energy shift. And that maybe the best way to explain it is that we just weren't taking it seriously. And that is really frustrating for me. I think the best way to do or combat that is just be myself, because I open my mouth and I know that I know how to talk and I carry myself really well. And any stereotype people might have about all you have to be is pretty, or pageants are catty, like the girls are mean, all that crap, it's just not true at all. And I think the girls are living proof of it too. But it does. I really truly I think pageants are dying. They really are. And they're so amazing. I mean, it helped me in part pay for college. And I think we're doing really good work to combat the stereotype. And the new CEO of the organization, she's doing so much for its growth. But I'm super passionate about that. I'm like, okay, let's make pageants relevant. Let's bring it back on live TV. Let's stress the importance of what this organization has done for women's lives, because I think it is a very powerful organization and has been since 1937, when the first pageant was on the boardwalk in New Jersey.
Wow.
So I know my history.
There you go.
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, but then that's amazing, because like women's rights and the rise of feminism has probably changed a lot of how pageants are perceived, good and bad, maybe. But generally speaking, I mean, the way that women were perceived in our community, even in the United States in like 1950, for example, them that's notorious for like the misogyny and all this, like the working class, and the dad goes and earns the bacon and mom stays home and that's the woman's job, is like, these like stereotypes that have been t- still are needing to be, but are slowly working and being torn down. um that has to have made a big impact by empowering women through pageants, right? That like there has to be a lot of that to be accredited to it. So that's crazy that like is still happening to you, like that someone brings it up at work, and then all of a sudden the perception of you and who you are changes entirely based on just the fact that this is something that you do and that you do well. That's wild. Damn.
Yeah. Well, I think it also, Miss America has worked really hard to differentiate themselves from the stereotypical view of pageantry. And their first step to do that was when they got rid of swimsuit some odd years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. And so there's actually two main organizations that there's a lot of organizations for pageantry, but the two big ones that are on live TV that people know about are Miss USA, which is very famously owned by Donald Trump. He has sold it though, but for a long time he owned that organization. And then Miss America. And Miss America is what I compete in. It's, you have to have a talent. There's the scholarship aspect, the political events, that you have to stay on top of, the 10-minute interview. And then Miss USA is geared toward women who are interested in pursuing a career in the entertainment industry. So if you win Miss USA, you get an apartment in LA and a full-time modeling contract. Whereas with Miss America, you could go get your master's for free. So two very different. I think Miss USA probably fits more in the traditional pageant that people think of, whereas Miss America has really tried to move into, hey, this is like, you don't have to be in a swimsuit. We don't compete in swimsuit. This year, actually, we're doing fitness. So we're just wearing a cute little tennis skirt and shoes. Yeah, we don't wear swimsuits on
I didn't know
stage.
that.
Yeah, so it's a lot more inclusive, where it's like, hey, we still value fitness, but we're not going to make you be in a bikini, which that's daunting, I think, and to a lot of girls who maybe are thinking about competing. So I
Well,
love the direction they've taken.
that's actually really awesome. I did not know that. And actually, but Amy put in the chat, like, and I was going to ask you what was the difference between Miss USA and Miss America, but you kind of got there. But that's actually, I was literally, the next question I had for you was like, how do you, with a swimsuit section, or at least how it used to be, I guess. I feel like a lot of people thought that's what came to their mind when they thought of Miss America or Miss USA, and the misconceptions, right? But understanding that there's a lot more focus and a lot more emphasis on a well-roundedness, and that's worth a lot more to win the pageant or to win the competition, then I think that's huge. And I think it's great that they're valuing fitness, because I do believe that, I live in Portland. I'm gonna get in trouble for saying anything like this, but there's a lot of if there's a lot of people that I have met or I've heard just sitting at a bar or just having discussions at a party or something, where they see fitness and the fitness movement and people who post about being fit. And I'm not saying skinny, because there's not the same thing. So talking about fitness and health, that's a threat to people who are larger bodied individuals, as to say it politically correct, right? And to me, it's like interesting that they get so offended just by just people who openly talk about their fitness. There's people who There's nothing wrong. Like, for example, Zane, Seth, we're talking about these guys. They're posting daily about workouts and being fit and eating right. And I think that's a great thing to value and to promote. But people get offended even by that, just saying. And so I think that the fact that they're focusing on health and fitness instead of like a bikini competition, like I get why that was cringy and why that would be kind of uncomfortable. And the fact that they're moving towards health and fitness, that's huge. I think that's a big deal, and that's awesome. I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna watch this competition. I'll be like, "There's our girl Nicole."
Watch, you're gonna scare yourself how into it you get.
I'm nervous
I
about that.
No, I mean, seriously, my dad, big, tough military guy, he watched one pageant, all of a sudden, I didn't like her dress. Well, I didn't like the way she asked that question. And I swear he's more into it than I am. He's so funny. And he just has
That's
something to say
awesome.
about all the girls. And I'm like, okay, dad, settle down.
That's awesome. You know
It's
what?
fun to
I'm scared
watch
of that.
though.
I'm scared of that. I'm
Yeah.
scared I'm gonna get into it, and all of a sudden it's gonna be like, well, she didn't even answer that question right, like or whatever. Like I'll be out here criticizing. This is why I don't watch The Bachelor or Bachelorette either, because I know there's something to it because people love it, and I'm like, I don't want to
Yeah.
be. I don't want to know. I don't want to know what it is. But I'm gonna watch this. The Ponytails podcast will be watching and supporting you, hoping you
I
win and
love
champion the
that.
cause. Yeah. Plus,
Thank you.
we need a badass book woman to be winning these competitions, right? We have badass book people doing really cool stuff all across the country in all the different industries. Why not this? Right?
I totally agree. Totally
I
agree.
wonder.
Why not pageantry?
There's no other book girls that that do this, right? Across the country or even in Texas.
Definitely not in Texas. I would know them if they were in Texas.
I feel
That's
like
such
you
a
would have.
great question. That's such a great question. I wonder if there are girls in other states because that would be super cool to connect with them. I wonder if
Yeah.
there's a way to find that out.
Yeah. If you guys know everybody, message us. We'd want to know.
Mhm.
Speaking of that, let's transition real quick into some Southwestern stuff. Maybe talk a little bit about your time with that and how you're applying those principles to what you're doing now. Then we do some rapid fire questions and a ponytail or two. Is that cool?
That's perfect.
I'm having a blast. Thanks for being here. This is fun.
Yeah. No, this is a great time.
Yeah. This is what I get to do for work. This is so weird. I say this
Yeah,
a
I'm like
lot.
kind of mad at you for it, but whatever.
I've said this aloud a lot lately, but I'm speaking it more and more into existence because it's kind of like you said, there's part of like accepting that. Because sometimes I'm like, oh, does anybody care? And I'm like, no, this is a good thing. And people care because we're able to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess the first question is if you could tell, I know you told us last time, but just some people are just not going to go back and listen to it just because it's so down there. So can you tell us a little bit about how did you got into Southwestern in the first place? And then kind of I'll interject as we go along and kind of get the scoop on your Southwestern career from there. But how did you get into it in the first place?
So I had a very tumultuous freshman year. I had mentioned the being homeschooled situation and then going to a huge university. So I for sure lost myself a bit. And I was looking for something to be a part of, looking for something to go back to the original Nicole I knew, high achiever, hard worker in high school. And heard about this. Vivi Wynn. I was in history class one afternoon, and she went to the front of the class and she was like, "Hey, if you work hard and want to make money, then this is for you." So I went to an info session, and I'm sitting there listening, and Alex Ramos Castro, ARC, was talking, and I'm looking at the pamphlet, and I look at one of the books. I go, I have that book. I read that book growing up. And then I realized after talking to my mom, she bought the whole bag. She bought everything from a book kid.
Your mom was a pony.
She was at we had the Explore and Learns, we had the younger stuff, we had the black books. And we grew up with them. Yeah. So and we used that in our homeschool curriculum. So I just thought that was the coolest thing. And I had these weird connections because I was pretty hesitant on going, but my friend Matthias, he sold 2 years before. And then my friend Mia's dad sold. And then my friend Noah's dad sold. And I was like, okay. Yeah, I guess I'll do this. So went to the production seminar, and after that, I was like, yeah, no, I think I'm gonna back out. These people are crazy. And then what happened in May
Right.
happened, and that was kind of my, I don't know if I would have backed out. I can't say for certain. I'd like to think I would have gone regardless, but that was really the where I was bought in, where I wasn't necessarily super bought in before. So I went out for my first summer and had an okay summer. I made top 10% of the what
Like
of
the
the first
rookies?
years, yeah, of
Yeah.
rookies, yeah. And came back a second summer and bailed, actually, because of Miss Texas, because it's unfortunately in the summer. But then Miss Texas got canceled as well for COVID. And I was on, but I didn't tell anyone. I kept that a secret. So, because I didn't want to go sell. And I was on vacation in Colorado with my friends, end of May, I think. And my buddy Ethan Gombarda calls me on a Sunday and he goes, dude, where are you? And it's like, I'm in Colorado, I'm hiking. And he's like, why aren't you here? And I was like, and I knew, and we kept talking. I knew he was right. And so I said, I'll be there next Sunday. And got someone to take over my nannying job and swallowed my fear and
Went and
got in the
sold
car.
books.
And it might not, it was the month. No, maybe it was the month of July. So maybe it was June.
Oh, so the
I don't
summer had
actually
been
remember.
started.
The summer, I went in right, like not even in the middle. I think a little after the middle. I mean, it had been a minute, and I don't know what it was. I think it just clicked for me, but I had the same amount of customers as Edgar every week. I was doing like 50 customers a week, hitting like 400 or 500 units, which I was a 100 unit gal my
For the
first summer.
week?
Yes.
And for
100
context
units.
for context for people who are listening, Amy, if you could throw this up on the screen, one unit is $8 profit as of last. Or it's like $8.50 now of 2023. So 100 units a week, you made $800 a week. But relatively speaking, there's people who are selling 100 units a day or more.
Yeah.
Sometimes people sell like 300 units a day. So what you're alluding to is you weren't producing at a very high level your first summer. You come back late, and all of a sudden Edgar, who is a person who drops bombs of packages all over, who's getting 50 customers, and you basically did your entire first summer in 2 weeks. For context, for people who are listening who might not be book people, that's wild. That's pretty crazy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was wild. So I only sold for about 5 weeks and I made roughly the same amount that I sold in 13 my first summer.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
What clicked?
I didn't care. I didn't care about making money.
Ooh.
My first summer, I think I was uptight. I think I was weird, quite honestly. And my second summer, I just was like, man, I just don't even care. I'm just going to make friends. And then all of a sudden, everyone loved me. And because I was just Nicole,
Imagine.
I was just myself. Yeah. And when you're weird, people just don't click with you as much. The vibes are off.
So that's, and which is, there's nothing wrong with being weird, but just know and be self-aware that if people are clicking with you wrong, it's you're the weird one.
Yeah. No, yeah. And I think just regular Nicole, I would say I'm like a good weird. I'm a good weird. But my first summer, I was a bad weird because I just wanted them to buy. And
Had the
yeah.
dollar
And then my
signs in your
second
eyes.
summer, yeah, I was like, yeah, I could care less if you buy or not. Buy if you want. That's cool.
But that which is a secret. People I mean, work hard, study hard, be coachable, all of those things. Yes, but like the reality of it is when you just stop caring what people do or say about you, which seems to be a big theme throughout this episode, which is kind of interesting, is when you stop, when your fear of what people might think, what people might say, or if it's going to work or not goes away, and you just focus on just being the best version of yourself. That's how things tend to work out. It doesn't mean they work out well, right away. It doesn't mean that they work out fast, and it doesn't mean that they um are going to be easy or lack, or that journey will lack bumps and bruises, but it does mean that it will work. It's just sticking to it. And I think that's what I've learned from you today so far is it's just stop caring. Who cares if people
Yeah.
listen to your show or not? Who cares if people vote for you now? Who cares if people buy from you or not? Who cares if they like your skin or your hair or what you eat or don't eat or how you look or whatever?
Yeah.
Are you happy with all of those things? And if you
Yeah.
are, great. And if you're not, work on them. And that's it.
You know what Zane actually always tells me is it's none of your business what other people think about you.
Yeah.
It's just none of
Yeah.
your business.
Oh, I love that.
And I
That's
think
actually
that's such a great quote.
that's something that we actually the force, that's like a lot of our training in the force when we're selling is it what people think of you has nothing to do with you. It's so not like it's none of your business. Like you have no right to
Yeah.
show up as something else just because you think that they're going to think something of you. Like it's not fair to them or you. Oh, so good. Zane.
Fire, you know.
So where did you sell those 2 summers? What states?
I sold in Marietta, Georgia, and
Yeah.
New Albany, Mississippi.
Oh, Mississippi.
And something staple about me, I love sunflowers. They're my favorite flower in the entire universe. And in Mississippi, my second summer, we lived on a sunflower farm, and it was just the most magical experience every morning, waking up and being
Wow.
on a whole sunflower farm.
Wow. I was going to wear a sunflower shirt, but I decided against it. I'm joking.
Oh, you're joking. I was like, wow, what are the
Can you
odds?
imagine though? Can you imagine though?
It's like that would be crazy. if you did
Imagine.
that.
That'd be crazy. Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Okay. So before we go into rapid fire, the last bit is with today's world, what are elements of Southwestern that you're still applying for either what you're teaching people through like the TLC, or that you're teaching yourself, or that you're applying towards your prep towards your competition? Like what are you applying, and how are you using, how's it benefited you, or maybe not, how has it hurt you maybe a little bit with where you're at now?
No. Yeah, I think all it's done is benefit me, honestly. The biggest thing is definitely the self-talk. I mentioned all those things that you do for pageantry preparation, but if I'm going to be honest, 90%, at least for me, of the battle is the mental game. And because the reality is that I am competing against capable, smart, beautiful, funny women. And to be able to hold my ground and be like, I recognize that they all could win this title and are all, individually amazing people, still being able to say, but I'm Nicole Wingard, and here's what I bring to the table, and here's why that's enough. And that's something I've really struggled with, honestly. I mean, it is like a daily battle. Full transparency, today was a hard day where I was like, I just don't know if I'm qualified. Like, so-and-so, she'd make way better. I mean, she's done this and this and this. It's so easy to let yourself slip into that. And not just in pageantry. I think like in the business world, selling yourself short for what you can and can't achieve, for your fitness goals. Like, oh, they could look that way, but I could never look that way. I mean, it's just so prevalent in every aspect of your life. So just the ability to take control of your thoughts and not let them dictate you in a negative way, that's huge. So I use that in my personal life. Obviously, in this pageant, it's a part of my platform. It's what I teach people. I'll use it for the rest of my life. I'm sure you probably can relate. I mean, it's just, and without Southwestern, I mean, I'm sure I would have stumbled across it, but I don't know how many years it would have taken me to learn the power of self-affirmations and how to use them.
Oh, That's good. That's gold. This is a good time to plug this. We have a separate podcast called Executive Exercises that's now going to be airing on our Ponytails channel. If you guys are listening here, it'll be in the same space. It'll have a different logo on it, so you'll know what it is, and it'll have a different title, so it won't have a number next to it, but it will have a topic. One of the topics that we discussed this last week was self-talk and like how do you still use it and how to like tweak it to like post Southwestern world. And we have that episode. It's hosted by myself, Lee McCroskey, and we have Pat Roach, Alicia Huck, Will Metcher, and Quentin Roberts are kind of our regular guests, and we rotate some other ones. But it was amazing, that conversation about like self-talk and how powerful it can actually be to just really move it and have it be something that is at the center before attitude and before effort. It's just how you talk to yourself. I love that you said that. Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Now we're going to move on to the rapid fire segment of this. These are some questions that I'll ask you. It'll be about your experience. It's just to jog some memories of your book career and then Ponytails. And then that's a wrap. Does that sound good?
That sounds great.
All right. Rapid fire question number 1. What was your favorite territory to sell in? Like whether that was a state or a town when you were selling that you're like, this is my favorite town or county or school district.
Oh crap. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to remember it because it was so long ago. It was super close to New Albany, but we'll just say New Albany, 1000% Mississippi. Those people are amazing. They're so warm and friendly. And this is a hot take, love Texas, but just not the same Southern charm as Mississippi and
Interesting.
Georgia. Yeah. Or
Interesting.
well, I didn't feel the same way in Georgia though, because I was working in suburbia, but I truly was working in Southern rural Mississippi. And I just found the people to be quite pleasant to be around.
Which I think answers our second question. What's your favorite turf? Kind of turf. So country. It's like between country,
Yes.
big brick, suburbia. It sounds like
Mhm.
country was the okay.
Big brick, oof, Lululemon moms. Once you're besties with them, you're besties, but to break into their little circle, that's quite tough.
Lululemon moms.
Oh yeah, they're the worst. I mean, I know I'll be one, so I'm
But
just kidding.
but whatever. But listen,
But I hate
I love Lululemon moms because they loved charming old 18-year-old Andres just coming. Hi, Mrs. Jones.
I'm sure they did.
Oh, nice guy. Have you been to Greta's house? Okay, you gotta go over to Julie's. Okay, you go to Julie's, and I've heard about you. You're like, yeah, you did. Buy the whole bag, baby, and boom, you drop the bag. Take advantage of Julie being Lululemon mom. I'm like, I know exactly how to play this fiddle to get you to buy. Sorry, that sounds terrible. I'm kidding. Kind of kidding. All right, favorite advanced sales. Did you have one?
Advanced sales. Oh gosh.
Could have been like usually
Talking
people who don't remember, they just say more Utley, the pony video that they would always have you play. But if you don't remember, that's okay.
Oh, more Utley's keynote speech.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, favorite advanced sales speech.
Yeah, like the tape or CD that you might have listened to.
Tape or CD. Yeah, my car had a cassette. So actually the only one I think I did ever listen to was Mort Utley's.
Cassette. That's rough.
I know. It was so lame. Yeah.
Favorite HQ? I feel like you told us that already just now with the
Sunflower
sunflowers. Yep, of course, of course. Did you have a favorite product to sell or tack on? Or since you were a child of the product, did you have a product that you like to use the most, like the Explore and Learns or the CEA or the college prep book or what?
I liked selling the CEA the most, and I loved the Explore and Learns growing up. That one photo with the whale, the big whale with the over the whole
Yeah.
2 pages. Oh my gosh, I looked at that page for probably like 20 minutes at a time, just looking at it. It's really nice.
That's awesome. Favorite overall summer?
Second.
I feel like you're second. Okay. Best sales day, and this doesn't necessarily mean in units or like customers total. Like I sold 500 units and 37 customers. Maybe it was a day you sold 0, but it was your favorite because you saw a double rainbow across the sky and an eagle that went down and grabbed the fish and then dropped it into a bear's mouth or something like that. Like what's your favorite day when you were out in the book field that you can remember?
I think the most or the immediate memory that comes to my mind is when it actually was a really bad sales day. And it was my first summer, and it was in Georgia, and everything was sucking. And I had this very bizarre, euphoric moment where, kind of along the lines again of what we've talked about for this entire episode, I looked up at the sky and I just yelled, and I was like, ah! In the middle of this freaking neighborhood. And then I was like, I don't even care. And I was like, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care what people think of me. Because at that time, I was really struggling with feeling embarrassed that I was in people's neighborhoods and knocking on their doors and what they would think of me. And it was so liberating. And then the rest of the day, I just knocked. And that kind of unlocked that first summer where I could let go of what people thought about me.
What a
And
cool day.
Picture me, I'm in the middle of suburbia, and I was like, I don't even care. And just yell at the sky. People look outside their window. They're like, what is wrong with
Some
her?
mom walking her kid and dogs. She's like,
She's
okay,
crazy.
we don't care either. We don't care about you either.
Yeah. My favorite, this is why suburbia was tough. Okay, sorry, this is kind of a tangent, but it was so hurtful to me was the whole when you knock and ring and then nothing, and the garage door just slowly starts to go down. And it's like
HBHers.
we're not even gonna look at you in the eyes to tell you no. Like, we're just shutting our garage door on you, and you just knew.
We want you to know we're home and we're not coming.
Yeah. I hated that. That's so
HBHers. So that's what you want.
What's
Did you ever
HBHers?
Never heard that term? It's a book. I'll put it on the screen. It's Home But Hiding.
Home But Hiding. Oh, okay. That's funny.
That's best. There's also there was variations of it, but Home But Hiders, yeah. When you're like, or when they go through the ring cam, or when they would go through. Or when they would go through like the window, like you would knock and they would open the window of like the living room right next to the door. And they're like, what do you want? And you're like, come on, you can treat me like a human being.
Yeah. Like, you have a door. Okay.
This is easier to, I watch you struggle to open this window. You could have just opened this door. You do it every day. It's totally fine. Oh man. Favorite breakfast spot?
Waffle House.
You ate at a Waffle House for breakfast?
Every single day. Every single day. Well, my first summer. Second summer, wait, it gets better, Andres. Second summer, we ate at a vintage dress shop / breakfast store. And so Alex would try on these goofy, stupid looking dresses, and it was hilarious.
Okay, this is
like a
Mississippi. You gotta look this up. Simply Vintage. What's it called?
Look up new. It was in New Albany.
Breakfast.
Like breakfast vintage
New
shop.
Albany, Mississippi. Vintage, the Vintage Market. The Runaway Boutique, Southern Junkers Vintage Market. There's a lot of these in Mississippi, in New Albany. Why? Little resale shop.
It's like a very bizarre. Yes, yeah, I think it's resale, but what a bizarre combo. So, get your breakfast and then go try on these ugly looking dresses.
How are the eggs? By the way, check out this dress. It's got sunflowers on them. Oh man, that's epic. Okay, and the last question is, what's your favorite follow day?
Nadia Khan.
Who? By the way, I called her. She's gonna be on the show.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Heck yes. Okay, yeah. She is a charmer, specifically because she has the perfect voice for podcasting. I tell her that all the time. I'm like, Nadia, your voice smells like melting chocolate. Sounds.
Well, that's great because I have the face for radio. So this is great. This is gonna be awesome. So Nadia is gonna be fun. You were following Nadia on the Bookshield.
I did. I drove to Alabama. I followed her, and we just had the most wonderful day together. It was very fun.
Okay. Well, I know that we're trying to get you and her in an episode together sometime, like after your competition, so we can hear how you did. But then also, you, both her and you have said that together you are 3 times the fun. So
we are in fact.
So we'll do that. But okay, all right. That concludes the rapid fire questions. So now, the last bit of the show. Again, this could be 5 minutes. It could be 10 minutes. We'd like to open up for ponytails. This is either your favorite story from the book field, something that really impacted you, that changed your life. It could be a funny thing that happened to you. It could be a scary thing that happened that you overcame, or just general thoughts of this program itself. People have taken it their own way and however they wanted, but I'll leave it up to you. The mic is yours. This is Nicole's ponytails.
Wow. Okay. With great power comes great responsibility. I am going to share the story that it's a little scary. I didn't share. I was thinking actually of what I could share that I didn't share last time, and I was like, yeah, I definitely didn't share this story, mostly because I did break a rule, and so it's like, okay, Nicole, you know that
Like, where
if
you
you
have
break a rule,
schedule?
like they're there for a reason. No, I went into a home with a single dad, like with the man.
Oh no.
Yes.
Was he a
Yeah.
firefighter?
So no, no, he wasn't. So context, rural Mississippi, it was a trailer home, but it was not by anything. It was not, it was very isolated. I kind of had to go down a road to it. So this guy opens the door. There wasn't there wasn't a front porch. We could have sat on the steps, but that was just, and it was hot. And I didn't quite think it through. I didn't ask the questions like, is your wife home? Are your kids home? Turns out it was just him. So he and I truly, I think this is one of the really great components of my personality. I just think the best of people. And at my core, think the world is a smiley, happy place. And I love that I am an optimistic person. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that it's better to take caution than assume things. So, anyways, we're sitting there and I'm going through the sales approach, and things are getting weirder as we're having a conversation. It is just him. Like, he does have a kid, but the kid's not there, the wife's not there. And he just slowly starts trying to sit closer to me. And I'm like,
no.
sitting and
no.
like kind of moving as
Oh,
I'm like,
no.
and this is color words, numbers, and shapes. And I'm in my head, I'm like, what's going on? And I think as a person, I'm like, I'm trying to assess the danger. Okay, am I actually in trouble here? Could something bad actually happen? And I did start getting a little more panicky. And when he said, do you want to take this to the bedroom?
Oh no.
Then I was like, oh, SOS. I was like, oh my gosh, I have to get out of here. This is actually so scary. And
Oh my God.
I was so
no.
proud of myself, though. I looked at him. I said, sir, that is highly inappropriate. I'm a businesswoman. Either get out your credit card and you're going to buy these books, or I need to leave right now. And he got out his credit card and he bought. I should have just left. I mean, I really should have just left, but I guess I was like, man, I went through that whole sales cycle.
You
In
owe
hindsight,
this.
y'all.
Did you drop the bag at least, or was it just an explore and learn? I would have made him buy the bag.
I know. No, it was, yeah, it was, I mean, I don't even remember. I think it was the Ask Me's.
Like, it's
But
$1,500.
yeah. But I remember my heart was pounding
That's
when
so
I left,
scary.
and because I was like, okay, that actually could have been scary. That could have been bad. And then when I came back, he tried to get out of paying for half. And oh my word, I stood my ground. I said, I'm not leaving here. I said, you Venmo me, Cash App me, whatever. But I said, you told me 5 weeks ago you would buy these books and you would have half the payment ready for me. And so I'm not leaving until I have it. So I think it really helped with my confidence and assertiveness. But I also learned a really good lesson to not put myself in scary situations.
Wow. First of all, way to be a badass.
Thanks.
Like, good job. Also, thanks for using your experience to tell this story to other women who might be. There's people who are selling books right now that are out there, like currently, they're going to listen to this while they're selling. And if you're a book girl out there kicking ass, just that rule's there for your safety.
Yeah,
And
seriously.
the units are not worth it. But
Mm-mm.
if you find yourself by some random reason, because life is weird, learn from Nicole to stand your ground, be strong, and just say, "Hey, back up, bro."
Yeah.
Wow,
Unprofessional.
that's scary. Unprofessional. That's a crazy and then they bought story. We haven't had one of those in a while.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, and of course the gentleman. Well, it's not even worth calling him that. Of course, the guy decides to not try to back out. Gosh, some people's kids.
I know.
Ugh,
It's crazy.
unbelievable. Hey, that was good. Thank you for sharing that. That was
You're welcome.
I was
welcome.
not expecting that story.
Yeah. I wanted to spice it up a bit. I was like, what can I bring that Andres hasn't heard me say yet?
Spice.
So
I thought this was going the other way because we've had stories of single dads before, and they weren't creepy. They were more of the, and he was a ripped fireman or something. And you're like, oh boy.
oh no. Yeah,
No,
with the
this is
creepy
not it.
route.
This is the creepy one. Well,
Yeah.
there you go. We needed one of these.
Yeah.
Just ratting out all the life situations that happen in the book field. If you're listening and you had creepy dad in your bingo card, there you go. Nailed it. Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh at that experience, but I'm glad that you were strong. All right, guys. On that note, okay, so let's just wrap this up really quick. One more time. If people want to catch the pageant and watch you compete, that's going to be July 1st. What time is that? And how can you walk me through that again?
8 p.m. Central, July 1st at www.pageantslive.com. If you live outside of Texas, if you live in Texas, then it's on any major network on
at 8
cable
p.m.
TV.
Okay, July 1st. Okay, we'll be watching. And then if people want to reach out to you to hear more about your podcast, you can find an Apple Podcast at Spotify, Rise Above series by Nicole Wingard. You can just check it out. We will also link it once it's live. Even if it's live after this episode comes out. Well, whenever that goes, we'll just add it to the show notes so people can just click on it below and just go straight to your show from here. We'll also share about it once it's published and all the things are out on social media so you can get some momentum going there. And if you want to reach out to Nicole, make sure you find her on Instagram, Nicole J. Wingard. That's Wingard. It's going to be also on the link in the show below. It's below. Amy, make sure we get all those links there, please. There's a big thumbs up. Thanks, Amy. That's awesome. Any closing thoughts? Any last things you want to say before we wrap up here?
Honestly, no. This was just so fun. I had such a great time.
Thanks.
Thanks for letting me be on. It's an honor.
Yeah, this is a blast. Thanks so much. I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes both in your competition and beyond. Say hi to Zane for me.
I will.
We're getting out of here, guys. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Andres Gamboa, and I have been with Nicole Wingard. This has been the Ponytails Podcast. Bye, everybody.